I'm Bartłomiej Ciapała, and I'm from AGH University of Science and Technology, and I've been asked to present the effects of your project, Effect for Building. And since I am aware that you are a bit already after some or many presentations, I will try to do my best to put it in short words to keep your time and keep your attendance with us. So first of all, I am very glad that I've been asked for this presentation, and it's not only pleasure for me, but it's also to present effects of your work, but it's also an honor to present the dedication and all the time that you've spent for better energy efficiency of buildings within the Baltic region. And thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you very much for your effort, for your dedication, and all the actions, all the journeys that you have undertaken to improve the quality of living, the quality of our air, of our emissions around Europe. It's very precious, and thank you very much for this work. Next slide. Okay, if I was asked to show just one slide summarizing your work and the report that I am reporting right now, I mean the joint recommendations, I would say that there is an urgent need for a big picture in energy efficiency, regulations and strategies. That there is a big space for complex thinking, for thinking not only about one thing, for thinking about many things, many factors, many ways of obtaining the same result. While reading the joint recommendations report, it is quite clearly shown. I mean, not in an open way, but when you read it, you can see that there are things that are not only related to one issue or only one factor or only one way of doing something, that there are many areas where things may get much better if we look big, think big, and sometimes out of the box, of course, as well. All the actions undertaken regarding energy efficiency in buildings, especially public buildings, need to be seen not only as single action to do this and this. So separately, to provide funding, to provide some legal framework, to realize some investments. No, it's old-fashioned way of thinking, and is clearly shown in the report. It must be seen as one thing, one common action realized by many parties, of course, but one action aimed at improvement of energy efficiency. There's no other way than a modern, coherent management on various levels and various and inside various parties. And those activities which I have mentioned may be divided in 3 areas. And when I was reading the report, the joint recommendations, I couldn't help but to divide them in those 3 areas yet. As I said, it's a bit old-fashioned because now it's harder and harder to show clear boundaries between decision-making and financing, or financing and realization. I will be talking about those tools where you can see any clear boundaries and clear distinguishment. But there are 3 ways in which we may improve the application of energy efficiency. I mean, improve decision making, improve financing, and improve realization. And about the decision making, it's a wide area, of course, covering all actions from legal framework on European Union or national level through the regional regulations and local regulations, as well as some rules that incentives are divided, and in this level, you can see that that it's complex, that it's spread among various parties, but still you can point things that are on the decision makers, on our say governments, local authorities, and they need help. They need help in our work. Mine as a scientist, yours as people working on daily basis with local communes, and so on and so on. And that's why decision makers need to be provided with knowledge, unbiased knowledge, because of course the knowledge right now is available commonly, but often is provided by some lobbyists, some sellers, or maybe some potential contractors. And often I have to say that its knowledge is not so clearly unbiased, say, to be honest. And introducing modern methods of value and cost assessment, I think that it's very important to show the decision makers that this part, it's also, of course, widely elaborated in the report. So I think that I will just mention it here. Internal return rate, net present value. I would also add EMV method. Those methods are very important to be applied to boost the energy efficiency application in our region. Use of those modern calculations would work in favor of energy efficiency, because energy efficiency entails relatively low risk, and thus low risk gives very nice results in NPV and internal return rate, and also EMV, because all those three methods they include risk, and thus it would show to the decision makers and allow them to justify that even if the investment is bigger, for example, it's bigger investment to refurbish entire building than to add a PV system on the roof. Of course, it's bigger investment and more complex. Yet the risk entailed is lower, and this would improve their decisions and justification of decisions, which at first sight seems to be strange, maybe, but after some thinking, it's obvious that this decision should be made, but it's not always made, unfortunately. Use of new measures of environmental impact limitation. Again, big picture, including not only one factor, like limitation of energy consumption, because a limitation of energy consumption may simultaneously entail increase of CO2 emission, or limitation of CO2 emission may entail higher consumption of water. That's the example which I have personally been involved to, and making programs, making decisions that include many factors. That's something that is absolutely needed regarding to the recommendations, and I'm personally very dedicated to this point. Then facilitating the process with knowledge exchange and expert assisting. It is obvious that decision makers are of various background, as well as their co-workers, officers. Often they are just qualified officers, administrative people, very needed, but they are not in technical. They are not qualified to make technical decisions, and that's why there is a need for the knowledge exchange, expert assisting in the programs, when the programs are made, when the orders are made, when the designs are made. These are points, these are moments when the help of experts, I think it would be very, very appreciated. And also is this knowledge exchange is mentioned in the report, as well as wide consultations of strategies and incentive programs, which I think is a very good point, because in the report scientists and politicians are mentioned, and I am personally a scientist. I am happy that scientists are involved in, for example, incentive programs designing. Yet I am aware that some actions may be difficult to finish. For example, reaching targets in a given time or conditions, economical, formal, sometimes just time is a big difficulty, because when you have timely limited program, and you need to spend, say, half of the time on making an order or preparing the documentation, you have just a very little time for actions that will actually make you closer to the target. So those consultations of the strategies are also very, very important and elaborated in the report. About financing, improving accessibility of funds for small yet effective investments. It was about making those small investments bankable. Sometimes energy efficiency can be pretty much improved by pretty small actions, like changing radiators, like changing few windows or parts of the windows. And those small investments sometimes may be difficult to be financed by the local commune, and simultaneously they are so small that the preparing professional documentation for them may be as expensive as as this investment. So it's pointless. So those actions are not undertaken, and improving accessibility of funds for such small yet effective investments might significantly improve the quality of sometimes of living, if we are talking about objects that belong to public, but they are inhabited. Sometimes about quality of just well-being in a workplace. And we need to keep in mind that money is something that we cannot omit, and allocation of the money shows weight of the problem. When we have limited amount of money, and thus when we want to finance something, we say that this problem is more important than another. And we can also look at this, at the money from this perspective. Other actions that are called in the recommendations, it's popularization of energy performance contracting. And it's, for me, it's very interesting because it's completely different idea of investment. I think it was elaborated previously, but when I imagine that the local authority, for example, may order not a building of this shape, of this area, etc., etc., but they may order, they may contract making a building, raising a building of this parameter, of this energy consumption, of this maybe area, but maybe even not area, maybe space or functionality, and moving this from specifically elaborated technical solutions, moving to specifically elaborated requirements for the building. The parameters of the building limits also the risk. Not only financing is shifted by the energy performance contracting, because you can keep the money for a little bit longer time, but also when you want to have a building of a given parameters, it's on the contractor to make those parameters available. And those new mechanisms may just move the risk from the local authorities, which are, as I said, they are not suited to make very precise technical decisions because they are not educated in this way, into people who are educated in this way, and they very well know what they are doing. So for some, a risk may disappear in between, because it's a risk for a local authority, but for someone who knows exactly what they are doing, it's not a risk because they can calculate it pretty well. So this new mechanism of energy performance contracting is not only guaranteeing you that you will get the that you will spend money only if the energy performance contracted is reached, but also makes you sure that you will avoid, let's say, to be honest, stupid mistakes, stupid errors, which should not happen to the professionals in the area of building rising or energy efficiency. So it's also a way of mitigating the risk. Also, making green lease contracting more common is also a way of very good practice. Maybe it's not so common practice so far, but it should be more popular, and it's also stated in the recommendations, of course. This mechanism is a way of, it's very general concept, of course. It should be detailed in a given deal, but generally the deal is that the user of the building will improve on their own cost and risk the energy efficiency of the building, while we'll get some benefits from the building owner. And I can imagine that there is an old building, we don't have money to invest to renovate it completely, but we may lend it to someone for free, for example, for 10 years, as long as they will completely renovate it. And for someone, it may be much cheaper to renovate it than to buy a new building, and after 10 years we have a renovated building for our own. So it's I think it's a very interesting mechanism, and its popularization may be very beneficial for local communes, for local authorities, but also for companies if they would be interested in it. And increasing attractiveness of becoming a prosumer. It is a way of incentive in which we say to people that invest now and you will save money in the future. You will become independent in the future. And as we can see from an example of Poland, it's a very, very much effective way of making such investments of such, I mean, in renewable energy sources, in this case, pretty much popular than it used to be. And the third part is realization of the investment, and the support is needed also in this part. Detailed database of possible technical solutions is very, very needed. I think it's urgent, especially urgent among all the recommendations, because when you look for a given solution in the internet, you will get a company. You will reach a company, another company, another company. Of course, each company has a very good marketing staff, so they will show you all the pluses, all the advantages of their solution, and they will show you disadvantages of our other solutions. But it's not unbiased knowledge, as I mentioned. And this detailed database, how you may, for example, I have problems with air conditioning, with ventilation in our building of this type. What can I do? And you reach the database, and you can see that for this problem, you may make artificial ventilation, you may improve gravitational natural ventilation by making the windows properly, by installing suited windows. You may limit the activity inside the room, and so on and so on. And I think it's very urgent to make this comparison available. Also, multi-service contracting is an interesting solution. I'm not going to tell more about it because we are after time right now, because of the problems. I'm sorry for them. And then making investment bundling a standard. Because, for example, right now, we sometimes have a situation that there is a contest for financing. And what you do is you just pick only those parts of the potential bigger investment that give you the highest score. I mean, the biggest result for the least money. And because you want to win, of course, the competition to get the money. And because of that, some actions are not undertaken because they are not very effective. Still, they would give results, measurable results, but because of their specific placement or specific limitation, they are not suited to be financed in a way of the contest. And because of that, some of the actions are underfinanced and should be financed more. And making bundling a standard would benefit in more reasonable money spending. And the last point, showing a set of demonstration projects. It's something that is quite obvious, yet not, I don't know any database or any network of demonstration projects where we may go, see how it was made, to talk to the users, how do they like it, and so on and so on. And I think that this would be very beneficial to make. I don't say that the separate program is needed. Maybe just some money to collect all the buildings that became a network of such demonstration projects. Of course, what I said is not what I personally think, although I added some comments to it. But all the points that has been presented here before a moment are points taken from the report, which I think that it's already published, and I would like to encourage you to read the document, because it's very quite detailed and very nicely written. Set of concepts, of things, of attendance, of parties, of people involved in this project. And why one sentence? If I was asked to choose one sentence from the report, it would be this one: 97% of the buildings are wasting money and need to be upgraded in Europe, in European Union, at some point in the future. 97%. So those are huge money, huge. This is a huge challenge to make it financed in a way, in a suitable way, to make it in a proper way. And I am afraid that without modern way of management, without modern way of financing, of regulations, and of realizing the investments, we are not able to reach our targets in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
This is a point where normally I should ask for questions, but I am just a reporter of the...
We are running out of time.
Yeah, also we are running out of time, so I'm sorry for the troubles. I hope that they did not completely destroy the schedule. Thank you very much, and thank you once again for your effort and dedication to gain this knowledge. And
okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ciapała.